In the midst of rising global tension, Moscow has made a decision that will reshape the future of warfare in the skies. Russia is doubling its production and deployment of the S-500 Prometey, a system many experts already consider to be the most advanced air and missile defense technology on Earth. This move is not a minor adjustment or a symbolic gesture. It is a full-scale declaration that Russia intends to secure its airspace and strategic assets against any conceivable threat, whether from NATO, the United States, or emerging hypersonic powers. The S-500 represents the culmination of decades of Russian engineering, blending radar sophistication, missile technology, and battlefield doctrine into a single, almost impenetrable wall of defense. By doubling its numbers, Moscow is sending a powerful signal. The skies above Russia are not open for intrusion, and any adversary who dares to test that claim risks catastrophic failure. To understand the gravity of this development, one must first recognize what sets the S-500 apart. The S-400 was already feared for its ability to lock onto and destroy aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles at distances up to 400 kilometers. Yet the S-500 is designed to fight battles on a completely different level. It can intercept intercontinental ballistic missiles traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 15. It can destroy hypersonic glide vehicles that traditional air defenses cannot even track. It even has the capability to target satellites in low Earth orbit, making it one of the few terrestrial systems in existence that can challenge space-based assets. With such a platform, Russia is no longer simply defending its borders, it is redefining what air dominance means in the 21st century. By doubling its S-500 units, Russia is not just adding more batteries to protect Moscow. This is a carefully calculated expansion that extends the reach of its defensive umbrella to cover vital regions. Kaliningrad on NATO's doorstep, Crimea in the Black Sea, and strategic bases in the Arctic and Far East could all become fortified zones where NATO aircraft and missiles would face nearly impossible odds of survival. Each additional S-500 battery represents not just a radar and a launcher, but an entire dome of control that stretches hundreds of kilometers across the sky. In effect, Russia is carving out denial zones, airspace bubbles where Western jets and missiles would be rendered useless before they even cross the border. For the United States and its NATO allies, this expansion carries profound consequences. Since the end of the Cold War, Western strategy has rested heavily on air superiority. The ability to deploy aircraft freely, strike deep into enemy territory, and rely on long-range precision weapons to suppress defenses. The presence of doubled S-500 severely undermines that strategy. Suddenly, the very tools NATO depends on, its stealth aircraft, its Tomahawk cruise missiles, even its nuclear-tipped ICBMs, could be neutralized before reaching their intended targets. In practical terms, this means that any potential conflict with Russia would no longer be fought on the assumption of uncontested Western skies. The technical specifications themselves reveal why the S-500 is feared. The system's advanced radar network can track up to 10 ballistic targets simultaneously, distinguishing decoys from actual warheads and engaging them at altitudes approaching 200 kilometers. Its primary interceptor missiles, the 77N6N and 77N6N1, are specifically designed to destroy nuclear warheads by sheer kinetic impact, avoiding the need for explosive payloads that could trigger secondary fallout. The Prometey's integrated command and control system links directly with other Russian air defense layers such as the S-400, the Buk M3, and the Pantsir S-1, creating a seamless multi-tiered shield. This level of integration makes it nearly impossible for adversaries to exploit weaknesses in the network. But beyond the technology, the political message is just as powerful. By doubling production, Russia is telling the world that it will not be intimidated by Western pressure, sanctions, or military buildups along its borders. NATO has expanded eastward for decades, and American missile defense systems in Europe, such as those in Romania and Poland, are seen in Moscow as direct threats. The response is clear. If Washington believes it can surround Russia with missiles, Russia will counter by building a shield capable of neutralizing them. In this sense, the S-500 is not just a defensive measure, but a geopolitical statement carved in steel and fire. On the battlefield in Ukraine, the implications are immediate. Western-supplied drones, long-range rockets, and experimental systems are constantly probing Russia's defenses. The doubling of S-500 batteries ensures that these threats will be intercepted more effectively, raising the costs for Ukraine and its backers. Each failed missile strike, each drone destroyed before it can reach its target, is not only a tactical victory but also a psychological one. It reinforces the perception that Russia's defensive perimeter is unbreakable, even under the heaviest Western assistance. For NATO planners, the nightmare scenario is clear. If Russia successfully deploys twice as many S-500s as currently projected, entire regions of Eastern Europe would fall under Russian air denial. This would mean that NATO forces would have to fight without the confidence of air cover, a radical reversal of how the alliance has conducted wars for decades. It forces Western militaries to consider strategies they have not practiced since World War II, operating without air superiority, advancing without guaranteed airstrikes, and facing the possibility that their most advanced aircraft could fall from the sky in minutes. The industrial effort behind this expansion is monumental. Russia's defense sector has shifted to a wartime footing, with missile plants operating around the clock. Engineers are refining radar algorithms, while military crews undergo accelerated training programs to master the system's complex interface. In some facilities, production lines that once focused on civilian technology have been repurposed entirely for the S-500 project. This mobilization demonstrates not only Russia's technological capacity, but also its determination to prioritize survival and sovereignty above all else. Western analysts admit, even if begrudgingly, that the doubling of S-500 systems makes the idea of a preemptive strike against Russia vastly more difficult. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union relied on the threat of massive nuclear retaliation to deter aggression. Today, the S-500 complicates that equation by raising doubts about whether Western warheads could even reach their targets. The calculus of deterrence is shifting. If missiles can be intercepted in mid-flight, the credibility of nuclear strike doctrines begins to erode. This is why the Prometey is often described as not just a shield, but a sword. It denies the enemy confidence in their own weapons, forcing them to reconsider the costs of escalation. In strategic terms, this is as powerful as possessing thousands of offensive missiles. A nation that can defend itself reliably is a nation that cannot be coerced or threatened into submission. By doubling its S-500 arsenal, Russia is buying not just protection but strategic freedom. The timing of this move is no accident. The United States is developing its own hypersonic strike systems, NATO is boosting military budgets across Europe, and tensions in the Asia-Pacific are escalating. For Russia, standing still would be suicidal. Expanding the S-500 network now ensures that when these new weapons come online in the West, they will already face a mature and hardened defensive system. It is preemptive in the truest sense, outpacing adversaries before they can close the gap. In addition to its military utility, the S-500 also functions as a tool of political leverage. Every new deployment increases Russia's negotiating power on the global stage. When Moscow speaks of security guarantees or demands respect for its sphere of influence, it can point to the Prometey as proof that it cannot be ignored. NATO generals know that a miscalculation could result in entire squadrons of aircraft or salvos of missiles wiped out in seconds. This reality forces adversaries to think twice before making bold moves. For Ukraine, the doubling of the S-500 casts a long shadow. Already struggling against layered Russian defenses, Kyiv must now contend with a shield that even NATO would hesitate to challenge. This deepens Ukraine's reliance on Western support, but it also exposes the limits of that support. No matter how many weapons are delivered, there is a ceiling to what they can achieve if Russia's air defense cannot be penetrated. The war becomes not just a contest of firepower, but of endurance, and Russia's endurance, bolstered by its industrial base, appears formidable. Unlike many of Russia's previous defense systems, the S-500 is not intended for export, at least not yet. While countries like China, India, and Turkey have expressed interest, Moscow is holding back. The priority is clear. Domestic deployment comes first. This exclusivity only adds to the aura of the Prometey. It is Russia's crown jewel, reserved for its own protection, and not to be shared until the homeland itself is secure. From a technological perspective, the S-500 is not the end of the story. Military analysts speculate that Russia is already working on successors, systems that could intercept targets at even higher altitudes, perhaps even challenging objects in geostationary orbit. The doubling of today's S-500s may therefore be a stepping stone toward an even more ambitious vision, a future where Russia controls not just the skies, but the space above them. NATO's reaction has been predictably anxious. Billions of dollars are being funneled into research for countermeasures, from electronic warfare systems to swarming drone tactics. Yet the uncomfortable truth is that these countermeasures are years, perhaps decades, behind. Russia is deploying systems now that the West has only begun to imagine answers for. The balance of innovation, at least in this field, is tilting eastward. For Russian citizens, the sight of more S-500 batteries rolling out of factories is more than just a military spectacle. It is reassurance. It is the visible proof that their country is not defenseless against NATO missiles or American stealth bombers. In a time of uncertainty and sanctions, the Prometey stands as a symbol of resilience, showing that Russia can withstand external pressure and continue to project power. For adversaries, the message could not be clearer. The age of assuming Russian weakness is over. The doubling of the S-500 is a direct challenge to the idea of Western military supremacy. It says, in effect, you may bring your aircraft, your missiles, even your hypersonics, but they will not reach us. They will fall from the sky before they reach their mark. This is deterrence in its most visceral form. The larger question now is how long the world can live under this new tension. With both sides developing ever more advanced weapons, the line between deterrence and escalation grows thinner by the day. Russia has taken the lead in building a shield that promises safety, but safety for one nation can mean vulnerability for another. NATO must decide whether to challenge this shield directly, seek alternative strategies, or risk an arms race that pushes humanity closer to the brink. For Russia, however, the path is set. The doubling of the S-500 is not about pleasing allies or intimidating adversaries. It is about survival in a world where power is determined not only by who can strike hardest, but by who can withstand the strike. And right now, Russia is constructing the most formidable defense system the world has ever seen. One truth remains undeniable. With the Prometey multiplying, the sky above Russia belongs to Russia alone. Anyone who dares to test that truth must prepare to face the fury of interceptors streaking through the heavens, striking down threats at the edge of space. This is not just technology, it is a message carved into the firmament itself. Russia will endure, Russia will defend, and the S-500 stands as the unblinking guardian of its sovereignty.